Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast, and we are looking at best bets here in another 3-game slate in the NBA on Friday. We also have a player props video up as we do each and every day moving forward, so make sure to subscribe to that page and continue to follow along with us. Also head to thelines.com. Use everything we have up on the site right now as you guys are making your bets in the NBA this postseason. Nate, let's go ahead and get right into the first game we're talking about here on Friday, the T-Wolves and the Suns.
Yeah, T-Wolves now at Phoenix, and that means we should see a few more points. So I'm going to take the first half over. 102.5 points is what we're looking at here. Pretty low. I'm not really willing to take the Suns to close down the stretch because they seem to be, they struggled in the fourth quarter all year, and they seem to be getting kind of grinded down by the Wolves' physicality and then just like completely shitting the bed in the fourth. But game one did total 112 here. We totaled 101 in game two, but there's some notable road home splits for the Wolves that indicates 5 more points per game on average in the first half for them and their opponents. So they score 58 on the road versus 54 at home, play a little faster. Their last 6 playoff road games, they've allowed 57 in the first half. They've allowed some big totals, Memphis, Denver, teams like that. Phoenix, they averaged 60 in the first half all season. They got 66 in those 3 against Mini. It obviously hasn't been the same kind of free fire fest in terms of spreading out Mini and scoring. But this physicality that the Wolves are playing with, like eventually this is going to even out in terms of the whistle, and then the Suns just being in the bonus. There have been a lot of free throws on both sides in this series so far. They're 3rd and 4th in free throw rate. But now that the refs are in Phoenix, and you're also going to have the Suns adjusting and game planning for this and doing those like head whips that get the calls. And like, this is actually stuff you have to practice if you're Devin Booker right now and you're just getting hand checked all the way up and down the court. But in any case, like there's mismatches everywhere in this series, and that indicates like you can come out and get some easy buckets. The Wolves are getting, parades to the rim when the Suns go small. The Suns are trying to spread them out and hit threes. They might not have Grayson Allen now, which puts Royce O'Neal in the starting lineup. We only have a really small sample size of like what those lineups look like. 3 minutes in the series with Royce instead of Grayson with the starters. 117 offensive rating, 142 defensive rating. Larger samples like since Royce joined the Suns would indicate like the offense is going to be pretty good. Defense might be a little better than that, but we'll also see a lot of Eric Gordon, and most of the lineups with him in it have like a 120 defensive rating or worse. We know Ant is getting his shot whenever. The Suns in the playoffs last year, I'm looking for them to be a little bit more, that we thought they were buried when they lost the first 2 in Denver for sure. Right. And then they averaged 65 in the first half of those games, 3 and 4 after coming home. And they averaged a ton of points throughout the whole game. But they also allowed 57 in the first half on the other side. And then if they are letting go of the rope, remember they allowed 81 points in the elimination game against Denver at home. So, there's a couple different scenarios to get you over here is what we're thinking.
Yeah, 100%. I'm all over this with you. I'm on the full game over personally. I'm no qualms with the first half. 102.5. Look, it's a 207 total on the game, and so like I said, I'm going over with that. But really, where I'm coming from on the total is, and why it's no difference between the half is like, it's a tiny little total here, man. So if you think it's going over 102 in the first half, and we get to like 110 or so in the first half, like, I think we're good for 100 points in the second half. The Suns, man, it's like they're a shooting team. It takes a little bit less energy to make your shots, and I could see this going the way of like, I don't want to say. Look, blowout for the Suns wouldn't shock me if they come out and are up by 20 in the first half at some point, like serious, because the regression from the progression, if you will, from the shooting that they've exhibited in the first 2 games, like. If they get back to their even, like their mean and their average, they've got to shoot really, really well because of how poorly they've shot in the first one. That's kind of where I'm coming from. See the magic, not the best comparison, but see the magic here in game 3, right? Where it was like, I noticed that neither of us just blindly took Cavs money line on Thursday night here because we were like, look, you can't shoot 35% or 38 effective field goal percentage from for 2 games in a row and not have that change eventually. Like, this is, you're too good. That's why there's averages. Teams don't just shoot the exact average that they have every game. They go up and down, and that's, we're now very down for this Suns team. And really, it might not seem like a huge deal, but 44% from the field and 34 from deep is drastically different over the large sample size that we have from the regular season, where they shot 49.3% as a team just from the field, and then 38.2% from three, and that's top 5 in both in the league, because that's what this team is predicated on. It's like, it is a jump shooting team, to be honest, and their defense was doing well down low, a bit better, but there's a lot of other stuff going on now, like steals and Jaden McDaniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker playing like Scottie Pippen, essentially, right? Like that's those are 2 things at home from role players that just, the defense travels, I get that, but the offense going back home traveling for this Phoenix team is also what I'm looking at. And yeah, you brought it up, but like I'm just looking for a repeat of what happened with that Denver series last year, where we just buried this team, and they shot poorly in those first 2 games as well, and they came back and averaged $125 in the next 2 games, and that is what I'm looking at here to happen once again, because like I was saying, those shooting splits after the first 2 games of just terribleness in last year's series and this year now, they went from shooting below 45% last year, and even worse this year, to shooting 50%, 57% from the field, and having effective field goal percentages in the first game, after, or the second one rather, they shot even better. It was crazy. It was like a 60% effective field goal percentage, which is like 2017 Warriors stuff. And then you've got the game 1, they still had the 121 points, and even though they weren't as good from the field, or excuse me, from 3, they still just got so much stuff around the paint, because once people need, in this case, Denver last year, need to come out and step out on those shooters even more so, well, then they were able to get stuff down low a lot more. So I like the Grayson Allen departure and like questionable tag and likelihood that he doesn't play does to give me a slight second of pause, because he was very crucial to their shooting splits this season and how well he shot. I mean, he led the league in 3-point percentage for a reason, and that outlet of a corner 3 guy. But like we said, the role players play better at home. It's the redundancy that we always talk about. And if you're going to go back home without Grayson Allen, like, at least that you're going back home. And now you've got Royce O'Neal shooting from the corner, for instance, where he's been more than adequate as that, when, especially like I said, at home. So yeah, I'm with you on all the overs, half or full game.
Yeah, I mean, there is a comparison here to the Cavs Magic series, but I think it's the Cavs being more like the Timberwolves. Like, who are we to trust this team to like complete an actual sweep, the Minnesota Timberwolves, like to take the same intensity that they brought for 2 games and completely killed the Suns. Like, all credit to them. But the maturity level on this team, like, you have to bring up again, like, are they going to be able to sustain that and execute against a desperate team and actually beat them twice on their floor? Like, I don't think the Wolves are on that level. So, I mean, I would lean Suns in this game. I think the -4 is a little iffy, though. It's close to the key number, but
Yeah.
If it's a Suns style of game, it's definitely going over. So
Yeah.
we like that. Same thought here, really. If it's a Pacers style of game, it's going over
Right.
221. So give me the money line and the over 221, which has been bet down 5 points for you here, and that gets you plus 150. The team total for the Pacers 113.5 is also quite playable here. I think the Bucks might literally just like let go of the rope in this game, and just like, Giannis is doubtful, Chris Middleton is legit questionable, right?
Yeah.
What do they have if they don't have Chris, at least with Dame? I do trust Dame to maybe like to keep this game reasonably high scoring, because he was, as I mentioned, was just like absolutely lethal on the road in the playoffs back when he was the man with Portland. He averaged 9 threes at 58% in 3 games at Denver 3 years ago, and the team averaged 124 a game at playing at just a 94 pace. But we know the Pacers are going to try to push it a little bit more at home. The pace actually slowed down in terms of possessions from game 1 to game 2. But in the half court, you could tell the Pacers were playing Pacer ball, right? I mean, they were moving the ball fast, getting to their stuff. They had the highest assist rate of any game in the playoffs so far, 76%. And the Bucks were completely mortgaging their defense to face guard Halliburton. And like, great, you're shutting him down. He's not shooting. But like, Pascal Siakam is absolutely killing you guys now on like 4-on-3s, right? As soon as Tyrese just like gets rid of the ball, Siakam going downhill like an actually skilled Draymond Green who can score the ball himself.
Oh, shots
Um,
fired.
no. Yeah, I mean, a guy who can shoot, and I
Yes,
mean,
definitely.
credit Siakam. He seems to know exactly what he's doing against whichever defender they throw at him, and thriving at the fact that it's not Giannis, and the Bucks don't have a good matchup for him until Giannis comes back. Their defense also dips on the road, like most teams. I mean, their defense dipped to 122 defensive rating and 9 without Giannis this season, giving up plenty of points. Trending over. Pacers went over in their last 4 home games. They won 5 straight at home. I just think, again, yeah, this is going to be their style of play now back at their house.
Yeah, I can see that. I was a little bit scared, but yeah, the Middleton news is like it's a go. I don't know if I'm scared of the spread anymore. Even I mean, 6 points. We're over that number. I don't love that, but either way, to your point, like and really just a little bit of a repeat of what we said in about the T Wolves and the Suns, like. You saw what happened for the Pacers were a 2-game sample of exactly what I was just saying ago about progression and regression back to the averages, because after that abysmal shooting in the first game, you still didn't even get more aggression from Tyrese Halliburton, because this team is predicated on like depth, honestly, and that's not going to take you very, like if Giannis was in this series, I don't think that if Rick Carlisle wanted to play lineups the way he's playing them, that it would work. But it's going to be another game with at best a very hobbled Chris Middleton, and then just Dame and the boys, and I don't know if that's going to be enough. We talk about that when he was on Portland, and we're starting to look a little bit Portlandy here. Pat Connaughton is also a commonplace here now for him, as like just a band of merry men that he's trying to drag along. But I'm going to go to a little same game parlay here that I kind of like as like a ladder parlay as well, if you wanted to do that. But I really like what I'm seeing here with these lines that we're getting for James Harden assists, and even more so, God, I love this Russell Westbrook over 7.5 points bet. I've fallen deeply in love with it for a couple of reasons. One is Russ has played 30 games this season with Kawhi. He's gotten where he's gotten 20 plus minutes. I should be very clear. So I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't leaving Kawhi off, which, by the way, he's still listed as like game time decision, but that's just Kawhi, I guess. And I do expect him to play even after that really poor performance in the last game. Now we're back in Dallas, and like I said, 28 of 30 games he's gone over when he played with Kawhi. I mean, you can't get a much better hit rate than that after a 30 game sample size of him playing with this dude and getting 20 minutes, which 30 games is pretty frequent, considering they played like I think a total of like 60. So half of them, and Russ was definitely like bench player when we need him, but now it's the playoffs, and he's played 20 and 24 minutes in these first 2, and he actually got a few more minutes with Kawhi in game 2 than he did in game 1, and went under in the last game. And this is part of why I love the bet. He went under in the last game, going 2 for 9 from the field. And maybe there's like my best guess would be that sports books setting these lines right now are saying like, well, we just saw him get 7, and maybe people will correlate him going under recently with Kawhi coming back and think, oh, Kawhi's in, so that means he goes under, and now I'm scared of taking over on a 7.5 point bet for Russell Westbrook. And that's absurd, because even if Kawhi was or was not in, he's played 41 games, which is 11 without Kawhi, where he got 20 plus minutes. And in those 41 games, he went over 39 times. Like, it's a 96% hit rate that he's doing this when he gets this amount of time, and he's the best player off the bench, and he has been. And you're not even really getting very many Mason Plumlee minutes off the bench anymore, and you're still getting a little. So Russ is actually the dude, the next best rebounder when you don't have Kawhi on the floor. If you have one of Kawhi and Zubac, the second best defender on the floor with them is going to be Russell Westbrook, essentially. And that's what you kind of rely on, that they're going to need his minutes for that reasoning, as like almost small ball 5, like we've seen with him, or at least small 4, like a small power forward whose job is just to go get the ball, crash, and then finish those driving layups when he gets an assist from guys like James Harden, right? I think you can parlay this really nicely with James Harden over 7.5 assists as well. That's his core line, and it's minus 135 on DraftKings if you want to take it by itself, and that's where you get the best juice. You can just add something to Russ. Like, honestly, I'd be fine with like Russell 10 points and James Harden 5 assists, and now you're talking about a lot worse, not quite as good a juice, but you alt that Russell Westbrook points up to where he's averaging 13 a game in these games where he gets 20 minutes is Russell Westbrook, taking 11 field goal attempts, and he just took 9 2 games in a row in this series. So I keep going on about the Russ bet because I would definitely hit that, everybody. I don't think that's going to stay at 7.5. We're going to see that keep climbing over to 8.5. But to finish the point about Harden, 8+ assists for Harden. This is a similar theory though for me, which is like, I love when the common thinking of the public is going to be, oh, well, Kawhi's in, so that's going to mean less stats for James Harden. Not assists, though. Like, maybe fewer field goal attempts, but not assists. He actually has 0.1 more assists per game with Kawhi this season than without him. But either way, it's over 7.5. It's 8.5 or 8.6, right? With Kawhi in there in a really good sample size as well. So the potential assists with Kawhi up at about 14 per game. He's had 12 per game in the first two, 12 in each of the first two, and just, squeaked over in the second one, and even got 8 in the first one as well. So just squeaking over in both of them. I liked under 9.5 when Kawhi was not on the floor in game one, as you may remember. And I really, really like the margin for over 7.5 in this one, parlayed with Russ, or even just as a core bet by itself.
Yeah, both are low for sure. I mean, yeah, you look, Russ actually produces more on the road since the start of February. 12 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. I don't know if you want to bundle any of these stats together, but he's just like shot out of a cannon in his limited minutes. He's out there compiling stats against the Dallas bench that is just not very good. And yeah, as far as Harden facilitating, yeah, I mean, now that Kawhi is kind of getting into maybe his second game in rhythm more, the offense should be a little smoother. I mean, I think I would lean over more than under. It's just like zagging here, assuming that the Clippers are going to get on track a little bit more.
Yeah, the only thing that scares you is the pace. It's like an interesting, sort of conundrum with Kawhi on the floor. Everything slows down by like 3.5 possessions per 100, but the offensive rating jumps from like 113 without him to 121 with him. So yeah, I think that's going to be heavily. I think the over is a better play here. Like you were saying, this is a bit of a zag. After the first two games, saw one team, really struggle to score. In game one, it was the Mavs. Game two was the Clips, and now we're kind of coming back a little more even footed. And I would expect even a first half over could be a good look in this one, similar to the play that you said earlier. But that is all the time we have for you in Best Bets. Thank you for following along. Continue to do so. Subscribe to the page. Check out the Play a Props video that we are bringing to you every day alongside these Best Bets. Until we see you next, happy betting.